Hello and welcome to our today's webinar from our series Global Mobility and COVID-19. I hope you are all well and healthy and safe and staying home as everybody. We are now already in the, I think, for us actually, for the team, we are now 8 weeks already working more or less from home, at least as far as we can. So I'm not sure how you do. Before we start now, on the right-hand side, you will find the slides you can download, as well as the box where you can put down, write us any question you may have. Please do so, then I will answer them while we have this session. And later on, we will also do a short survey with you, but I'll get back to that at a later stage. There are, I hope you all have seen the news, the good news, hopefully, for all of you, that there will be some changes starting from next Monday. The Federal Council has indicated last week that the borders will be slightly opening, and we will see in a moment then what that means for all the foreigners or for all the employees who may at the moment still be outside of Switzerland and try to work for you, or already working for you, or just waiting to start, and what from an immigration perspective can be done so that they definitely can start. We have seen that this Monday now, oh no, better to say last Monday on the 27th of April, some shops were able to open, as well as hairdressers and some personal services, as well as dentists and doctors were able to do all the operations and everything they were allowed to do before. Starting from next week now, schools shall be open. At the moment, it's not quite clear how and how that will happen, but there is the intention that they should start next week, as well as any other store should open as well, should be able to open, except for restaurants and bars and clubs and museums and so on. They will be able to open then, if everything goes by plan, on the 8th of June. What is still not clear, and the Federal Council has not taken any decision on, is when the border will be completely open. If it's going based on the plan they have, it should be by the 8th of June or 15th of June. But it basically really depends on the number of infections in the next few weeks, and then by end of May, the authority or the Federal Council will take a decision on it. At the moment, the borders are still closed, and it's still that all other countries except Liechtenstein are for us high-risk countries, and therefore entries from one of the high-risk countries will be reviewed very carefully, and only in certain conditions people are let in. People who are able to enter Switzerland, we get to that in a second. the people who are already in Switzerland, they can remain in Switzerland, and still extensions of work and residence permits will be reviewed. And in case somebody is here in Switzerland with a Schengen visa or expired permit and cannot exit at the moment, the migration authority needs to be notified. Now, the slightly new regulations now for non-EU EFTA nationals. For really the new applications, so for anybody for whom you have not filed an application already or have filed it, still the situation is the authority only accepts those applications starting from the 15th of June. What they currently will do, however, is any application you have filed before the 19th of March for non-EU EFTA nationals, those you can start to file again next Monday, and then the authority will also review them. So that means basically all the previous filed applications you just can file again, or in case you had the deal with the agreement with the authority that they had kept the documents, then you just have to drop them an email that they should start to review again, and they will do so. We also expect that the authority might send or communicated directly with anybody who had filed applications and were in that situation, but for the moment we don't know. The other thing is, in case there had been a visa issued for a non-EU EFTA national which has now not been issued really, or it had been issued but the entry was not, he was not being able to enter Switzerland. This can now, starting from next Monday, be done again. So basically, if somebody had an entry visa until maybe the 10th of May, but he was not able to enter Switzerland now because of COVID-19, then you just have to contact the migration authority again, ask for a new confirmation of visa claim, and then the individual has to go back to the embassy or consulate and get a new visa. The authority in these scenarios or in these cases will not contact you directly, but you will have to contact the migration authority. What is still not possible is family reunifications or applications for students, pensioners, and so on. This is still not possible to file any application or get those individuals to Switzerland. For EU EFTA nationals, it is that any application you have filed before the 25th of March and who have an employment contract issued before the 25th of March, those you can actually submit again those applications, and they will be starting to review those applications as of next Monday. You can also do again the notification process for EU EFTA nationals who will just basically enter Switzerland usually and just getting here then registered. For those, the notification might be the better option that you do that so that they definitely can enter Switzerland. Otherwise, there might be a problem on the border. So if you do that, the only thing you need to keep in mind is that they do have to have an employment contract starting or having been issued before the 25th of March. In case you do not want to do the notification process, then for the entrance of Switzerland, usually the employment contract has to be provided and shown to the customs at the border, which needs to be dated before the 25th of March, as well as they should have in hand a lease starting as of April 1st. So basically, if the lease is missing, then definitely do the notification process. So at least you get the employee the notification and he can enter then Switzerland. Also assignments, if you have any assignments for up to 90 days, for those a notification process can be done as long as the service agreement or assignment agreement is dated before the 25th of March. What is also possible as of next Monday that family members of Swiss citizens or EU EFTA nationals can enter Switzerland based on the family reunification new. The only thing they need to provide is really showing that either the copy of the permit card of the spouse who is already here in Switzerland or the registration confirmation of the spouse so that they can enter Switzerland based on that. The borders will still be controlled, and in principle, it is still meant that everybody who is coming to Switzerland will be controlled and the documents will be reviewed. In practice, you may have the one or the other person who will be able to enter Switzerland without any documentation or without anything and will not be really controlled. But this is really basically having luck. We also had two people who were able to cross the border in Geneva, and both of them had not been controlled. So there is a slight chance of it. However, that is not the instruction from the authority to it. This is basically the update of the news from last week. We're still waiting for some of the final information and instructions from the authorities, but what I said is basically what now will happen. Our today's session is about the lessons we have learned, and one thing is if I look at the questions we had discussing now in the last weeks with our clients, as well as with speaking with colleagues, it was not always that simple to identify all the assignees and knowing exactly where they are. So I have heard from the one or the other that that took in the beginning quite a bit of time to see where everybody is and to find out the situation. Then what most likely all of you also did with all your assignments, it was an assessment of the situation of the employee as well as of the family, and to see how they are, how they're feeling. And there the communication was basically really the key element in it. You had to communicate quite carefully and a lot compared to other times in that in the current situation. This is also that not everybody is responding to a crisis in the same way, and some people need a lot of kind of hand-holding, and some people don't and can actually basically come around the situation or tackle all the problems they may have in the new country or in their host country themselves. Now, one thing was assessing the situation of each employee and then also assessing the safety regulations in the country abroad, and to see now from a company perspective whether you basically can let your assignee stay in the country or whether there is a higher risk, and based on your responsibility as the employer, you definitely have to do something. And then as well to see what the business needs are. So the situation is then you have the employee in the country abroad. He may be able to work or not being able to work. You have the safety regulations and health situation in the country abroad, as well as the feelings and the well-being of the assignee on your plate. And then on the other hand, the business needs to decide whether the person may go on paid or unpaid leave, or whether it's really the employee is needed and maybe definitely needs to brought back to the home country. So there's a lot which the business needs to decide, and the business needs are one of the factors. However, what I have seen and in the discussions with our clients, it was that most of you really put all the decisions or made all the decisions based on the well-being and the welfare of the assignees, which I think is really great. What all of you also said is one of the key elements was to determine really one person per assignee, basically, as their direct contact person, and who was in the end then dealing with all the questions and trying to support and help the assignee the best as possible. And there was not that much or only legal stuff required or all the work you usually do. There was more than really just listening, as well as trying to support and being supportive as best as possible. As already indicated, there was always one decision or one question coming up, whether the employee shall stay abroad or whether the employee shall return home, and then whether that should be done permanently or temporarily. And also to that, we have seen in the last weeks, there is not one decision on it, which is then basically the best solution for all of the assignees. So you will have to look at each case separately and then make a decision case by case. Now, just doing the best possible way for the assignee and the family, you on the other hand have to also see to any costs which are coming up in addition, as well as the legal questions on it, and there had to be an assessment to be done as well. I think which we definitely did in the last couple of weeks, learned a lot more about all the assignees as well as their needs, and maybe and hopefully a part of it after now the crisis will be completely over. We have a moment and really sit down and put down all the questions we had and see what we can actually really take out of it. I think a couple of lessons we have learned we put down on this slide. One thing is that everything you had to tackle now in the last couple of weeks with the assignees, this will have an impact and should have an impact on the current expat or assignment policies, and as well as to see in regard to safety measurements or health risks, as well as a couple of other things to see where maybe some changes needs to be done, because you now experienced at least the how shall I put it, the where or in which parts the assignment policy and the adding assignment contracts did not work the best way. As well as what I think definitely needs to be done is put down a kind of checklist to have it then for, in case we have a similar scenario again, you basically have a checklist and then have it a bit easier to try to get a workaround or to get started the best way. What also I think we have learned is that in case there is no tracking system already in place, or it's not having the information you need, definitely set up a tracking system with all the information you have now realized you definitely need in that situation, as well as a kind of information system as well, and maybe putting down some of the information or a kind of information package, which you also can send out to other HR people, to the business, as well as what maybe would have been helpful to the assignees and the families as well. Having everything digital and somehow stored safely so that everybody can take it from there is a key element, or we have learned that that is really key in such situation. So there maybe the one or the other company still has to do a bit, and to see that in that regard, in case we do have a new situation like this, we have everything where it should be. One of the questions or one of the issues is as well compensation, as well as the adaptation of cost of living factors or any other costs that maybe there as well it would be good to put down and list what additional cost and what additional where the cost of living factor has been changed, and then see that for a new scenario maybe you can also take out some of the answers and have it being better prepared than for next time. The situation we still have, I think, will have an impact definitely on selection criteria for assignees. And maybe you have now realized, because in crisis you usually get to know people much better and you see about their flexibility and how good they can actually work in this regard, and to see that for future you maybe put down the one or the other criteria as much more important than before. We also had in the last couple of weeks look at insurance coverage and to see that the expats and families have been insured properly and that everything is in place. And I think that is also now the chance, or to at least to have a look at the current insurances and to see whether the coverage you have and the insurance policies which have been taken out, that definitely this will be changed if needed, or at least you took the time now to look at it again and you think, okay, this is definitely what we need and we are on track with everything. What we also learned, I think that communication is definitely one of the key elements, and there it might be good as well to make a short survey as well with your assignees and to check with them what additional information, support, or whatever they would have wished for. So basically really to be prepared for a possible next time. As well as putting down to determine one of the contact person and to see how better you can prepare yourself in regard to communication, and trying to do things as best as possible really online, so that all the employees can read it and can read it more than just one time, as well as maybe some solution could also be to have little podcasts or videos to share with all the employees, so that they can also listen to it again and not just having a phone call on its own. There had been already before the crisis in some of the companies a high or more often discussion or about the type of assignments, and as well as the fact about whether to do as well virtual assignments. Before it was mainly about costs, or mostly cost driven, as well as based on the need of having someone put in a position in a country, but maybe the person which had been selected was not really prepared to go full-time on the assignment, maybe based on personal needs or whatever other needs, and therefore the virtual assignment had been an option. I listened to a couple of colleagues the last couple of weeks already, as well as had discussions with clients, and there the question about whether virtual assignments might not be really something as well for the future, where we can kind of save the one or the other hardship for the involved people, and this might be as well a solution going forward in regard to saving and cutting costs on the one or the other hand. And I think one thing is that all of the companies have lost money in the past weeks, so the looking at cost part will now be done, or if it has not already started, it will definitely be done in the next few weeks very thoroughly, and we will have to deal with that as well. I think what we definitely have learned is we are, all of us, I think, have done quite a lot to get to the stage where we are today. And I think all of the assignees are happy and see as well that they are working for the right company, and they are exactly where they should be. So, and being taken care is one of the key elements, I think, in such a crisis. I still hope we more or less have now combated the COVID-19 crisis. I still be quite positive about it. However, I'm hesitant to say we definitely we have it over. We will see now what the next few weeks will bring us, and yeah, hopefully we all learned something out of it. And I think the other aspect is definitely to take care of your neighbor, your colleague, in a bit of a more thorough way than it was in the past, is also one of the key takeouts. Now, before we will now start with a quick survey while I will answer the questions you have. One question we received is, for new local employment of EU nationals, if the contract was signed before the 25th of March, whether we can use the notification process, the Meldeverfahren, if the person's role is not of mainly public interest, or would the application be rejected and therefore there is no point in trying? No, you can do the notification process, so the Meldeverfahren, for anybody, as long as the employment contract had been issued before the 25th of March. What you need to do is, if you do the notification, there is a commentary field, and in the commentary field, you need to put down or write that the employment contract had been issued before the 25th of March, and then write an email after you did the notification. Write an email to the email address you see on the notification you've done, to that email address, and attach a copy of the employment contract, and put in your reference the notification number, so that the authority who is issuing the notification confirmations will see it and will issue the notification. So there's no need that the individual needs to be in public need or needs working in the health sector. It's for all EU EFTA nationals. The next question is, the person does not have a lease contract in Switzerland yet. If the person has not a lease contract in Switzerland yet, then definitely you just have to do the notification, and then there is no problem at all. If the person has a lease contract starting 1st of April, then basically there is no need you do the notification. So you have basically two options. Either you have an employment contract starting before the 25th of March, and the employee has a lease starting 1st of April, then with those two documents, they basically can enter the border starting from 11th of May and should be able to enter Switzerland. If they don't have a lease, then the only option you have that person can enter Switzerland starting from next week is that you need to do the notification. We recommend, or I recommend, to do the notification for all of those employees who may want to enter starting from next week again, as long as the contract had been issued before the 25th of March, so that also for them it's a bit easier maybe to get into the country. These are basically all the questions we have received, so most likely everything was clear, or you had already all your questions with the slides or with the presentation being clarified. We will still do one more COVID-19 session, which will be next week, and it will be about answering questions from all of you. So if you have any question and you would like to that we discuss it in that circle, then just send us an email to the email address on that slide, and we will take it with us in the next session. As well as you can already go and register for the next session. Also, in the next few weeks, we will have our usual webinars, and one is on the 25th of June, which is about payroll for expatriates, which might be interesting for you as well as on the 28th of May, the webinar about business traveler in Switzerland and whether a work permit or business visa will be required. And then in the last semester, there are 3 English webinars. One is about assignments to Singapore, which is on the 27th of August, as well as then in November about the matter of tax equalization, and on the 3rd of December about assignments to China and Hong Kong. I also would like to draw your attention to our hotline, which you still can use in the morning from 9 to 11, as well as on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I look forward to meet you at one of our next sessions. I wish you a great day and stay healthy and safe.